Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA Northern New Jersey. So happy to have some time with you today. It is Wednesday, and we have another wonderful conversation on YWTV for you. As you know, we're all about engaging, inspiring, and educating you. And another great topic that falls into that category. Today's topic is about aging. And, it happens to all of us. We cannot escape it. We do not have the Benjamin Button secret. At least I don't. But it's definitely something that, although it is a natural process, it doesn't always feel so natural. And sometimes having a little support, is goes a very long way for making it a more comfortable process. So with that, we know with aging that it's important to stay active and fit and engaged. And, hopefully all of that will help us to lead to a happier life and, a happy existence as we are getting older. Studies show that happy seniors have less trouble getting up in the morning, getting dressed, taking a shower, opposed to unhappy seniors who really, struggle with some of those things and also are more prone and likely to develop diabetes, heart disease, cancer, and strokes. So even if we're in good health and even if we have challenges, we still know that it's important to find some purpose as we age to keep our lives more fulfilled. And that's what today is talking about. We hear lots of authors and thought leaders talking about living a more purposeful life. There's no time that should end. It should continue as we evolve. And that's what our guest, Sarah, is here to talk about with us today. So with that, I'd like to introduce you all to Sarah Hiller-Bersson. She has this vision of how growing older can really end up being one of the best times of our lives. It's important that she'll share is to seek what makes us happy and understand the gifts that we have and be able to share them to others, share them with others during this time. So before we jump into this very interesting conversation with Sarah, I want to tell you a little bit about her. She is a licensed clinical social worker, and she has been working in the field of healthcare and geriatrics for over 17 years. She is a psychotherapist, and she's the founder of the Primary Clinician at the Center for Purposeful Aging, a psychotherapy practice that facilitates individuals to achieve fulfillment and high quality of life through purposeful living and aging. The center provides psychotherapy and counseling to older adults having trouble coping with transitions, themes of retirement, decline, change, loss, mood issues, corona burnout, which is a thing now, caregiver stress, anxiety, and depression. The practice offers individual psychotherapy, group therapy, and interactive lectures. She also offers teletherapy via Zoom and telephone calls when available. So she has over 17 years of experience in this field, and she has really dedicated her profession to empowering older adults and their families to achieve a more meaningful, manageable, and fulfilled life as they age. And I can share, as someone who has moved in my 89-year-old mother as of March, to kind of get through this time, that, this is really a very important discussion that we're having. And I'm so grateful to have Sarah here to have it. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
So Sarah, I'm curious, how did you kind of get to this space and have this be the focus of your work and your career and kind of evolve, a whole practice around it?
Well, I started off being a social worker, and they put me in, I had requested that I wanted to work with older adults. So they put me in hospitals and in a community setting where I really got to an opportunity to be able to help older people. And then I worked in Mount Sinai Hospital and Columbia Presbyterian. And when the time came, I applied for my clinical license. And as a social worker, you're really helping people address concrete or logistical issues that happen. But as a clinical social worker, you're really helping them cope with all of these issues. You're bringing in a lot of concrete and logistical help, but you're also really addressing the emotional reaction or the psychological reaction to the challenges of aging. So I had the opportunity, once I got my clinical license, to work in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And we saw a range of themes there. But what I really saw in the nursing homes and in assisted livings is people were having trouble identifying their purpose. And it was really creating depression. It was creating a scenario where they were saying, why am I getting up in the morning? And we did a lot of work and a lot of psychological kind of like digging to really understand, how do people find purpose? What is purpose? And it's something that can be found even with the most cognitively compromised or physically compromised person to find purpose. For example, I worked with someone that had MS, and she was a total care, meaning someone had to feed her. She was, she needed full care. And we worked together. I came and she was depressed at first, and we were working on finding meaning in life, finding purpose in life. And we worked on identifying things like being a role model to other people, like being a caring person and a supportive person to these, to the certified nurses assistants, the CNAs, the aides that help them. And, just having that be one of her purposes to really, to be supportive of staff, to show staff that what they're doing is so important, and how she impacted how the staff saw themselves, and therefore the staff treated this patient and other patients well, because she sent the message to them of, you're so valued, you're so loved. And that was her purpose. That became her purpose, to really give love out to the people that were still in her life. And it really brought her out of the depression, because she could tell how much staff relied upon her. And it really became one of the things one of the themes I was most interested in working at, helping people find their purpose. Now, everyone's purpose is totally different, because we're all individuals, we're all unique. And so it was very challenging to really help people identify their strengths and identify their personality tendencies, and then put it into a purpose. And that's what really I worked a lot on. And we actually developed a whole support group, which ended up becoming a lecture series on finding your purpose in life. And it's a really important thing as you get older.
Well, that's absolutely beautiful. Honestly, this is it sounds like you're a bit of a detective, a little detective work with the folks that you work with, to kind of help them dig deep and, uncover that for themselves. So, obviously we know that people are living longer. And that's been something that we've been, as a society, been proud of for, years, right?
Yes.
We've been hearing more and more about that. But as we've said, it doesn't always feel like, the golden years, right? Sometimes it feels like the dark years, for a lot of people, and they're not able to make that shift. And obviously you just shared a story about someone who, was in a very difficult place, but still you were able to help her, evolve, into a place of positivity. So how, what is your experience? What do you see why some people are able to get to that positive, happy place, while other people are not, and they just, can't move from where they are? What's the key?
The key is being self-aware and really taking on a proactive approach in terms of, how can I best use my my strengths and and what I'm passionate about to impact the world. And it's almost like it's an awareness. And what I like to think of, really, it's a lens that you look at to help you identify the purpose. It's an inner compass, and it's based on beliefs, and that you help assess and judge and navigate your environment and your circumstances. on how you perceive the world and your perspective. So, and based on that, you just decide this is how I'm going to interact with the world based on this perspective. So, I want to talk about the macro and the micro of this whole theme.
Mm-hmm.
So, first I wanted to talk about the bigger picture of it all, and I think it's an exciting time that we live in because everything is changing. You hear about like Black Lives Matter, you hear about women's rights, and like dysfunctional societal dynamics. They're really coming to the forefront. And everything is being challenged, and all these presumptions are being broken down, and issues are being unpacked, and we're really trying to optimize civilization and society as a whole. So, but I want us to start having a discussion really on how society looks at older adults, and how older adults, the role that older adults play in society. Mark Freeman was quoted as saying, "Older adults are our only increasing natural resource." And if you think about it, society is taking, encouraging a population who has all this wisdom and all this experience and all this insight, and saying, okay, you're 65, you did your contribution, make a right here. The assisted living facility is your first stop. Second stop is nursing home. Go ahead. And if you want beforehand, you could play golf. Okay. And first of all, people are living for 30 years. That's a lot of golf players. And we're going to have to build more golf courses because not many people, people are living till 90. And not many people like golf also, so it's a problem. But the whole issue really is that society is really taking all of this wisdom and know-how, and they're not using it properly. And they're missing out. And it's a shame to see that. And what also is happening is because society is sending a message to this older population, you're old, and so make a right there, go down that lane, and people who have been so productive, who have accomplished amazing things and still have it within them to be so relevant, are kind of being pushed aside. And society is losing out too, and people are losing out, and they're getting these messages, and they're getting depressed from it. And there's this big depression on like, this is what's out there for me. So I was thinking, like maybe society should start a discussion on how to keep these seniors engaged, how to have them still be very much relevant to their industries, perhaps in a more senior capacity. But why are we should be having them stay on. We should be having them still be much more a part of society, and they're not. And it's a shame.
It's interesting. So many of my mentors that, kind of helped grow me and my skill set of my work, in the last, I'd say, 5 to 7 years had started to retire. And I watched a lot of them, like those first few months, kind of struggle with, well, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to play cards and golf, or are they supposed to, sit home? Are they supposed to, how do they keep busy? What do they do? And a sect of them now, honestly, are busier than I am. They've gotten very involved in organizations and, social justice issues, and, are very evolved. And I can see that it's keeping them vibrant and healthy. So it's clear to me, and, these are people that are in their, late 60s and, early 70s. So as you're sharing, right, they've got a lot of living to do yet, based on what we know from physical health and, the longevity, that we're seeing. So it's nice to see that they've been able to make that evolution. But I agree, as a society, we haven't put enough structures in place to help folks with that transition.
Exactly.
Help folks with that transition. So this is really kind of cutting edge conversation. I mean, it is trying to start a different, social movement, which I would agree is, as someone who has been, caring for, aging parents for some time, that it's an important discussion. So let's talk a little bit. I mean, I know that maybe it feels somewhat obvious, but How is the fact that when people mentally are not in this kind of evolved place of knowing their purpose, how does that impact, their physical health and, illnesses and relationships? Can you speak about that?
Yes. So when you assess, when you know yourself and you know your strengths and you know that you're impactful in the world, you have a sense of confidence. You have an ability to really to know your self-worth. But when you're no longer in a role that has this overt, impactful way of justifying your value, you tend to kind of reject yourself. There's this kind of like dissonance of like, well, then what am I worth if I, if I'm not the head of a corporate banking system, or what am I worth? All my kids are out of the house and I'm not even doing anything, and it really does impact your sense of self, which directly impacts your mood. And as you know, when you're depressed, most people that are depressed, they're not looking to optimize their health as much. They're not looking to engage socially as much. And it really does impact how their psychological mood impacts the rest of their life through all of these avenues of their lives.
Yeah. So, it's interesting too. I'm also thinking about how, we all kind of live our lives in a certain way, but we always kind of that slogan of it's never too late to change, right? That
Mm-hmm.
You can do it any time. What you're describing though, in terms of kind of helping, once people get to a certain age, helping them kind of evolve and, look inside and find the purpose,
Mm-hmm.
involves a certain point of self-reflection that maybe they've never, had that experience even earlier in their life, right? Those might not be muscles, that they have, right? Because it may not have been something that came naturally to them. Is it too late to develop those? I mean, what kind of strategies and techniques do you use, in your role to help, create that for someone if they've never had it before?
Right. So I love working with older people because, and on the spectrum of who has the most insightful muscles or like ability to look inside muscles, it's definitely seniors who have been really reflecting their whole life and kind of taking in information their whole life and really adjusting how they interact with the world. And so what I do really is we do this thing called cognitive restructuring, where we're identifying what really made someone strong. When we're identifying a time when they're happy, when they felt content, when they felt fulfilled. And we said, what made you feel fulfilled? What were the ways that you felt you impacted your environment, you impacted your life, you impacted the life of others the most? And then we say, well, that's not possible anymore, but let's talk about your own strengths. And people love to talk about their strengths. I mean, that's like a way to, it's like, it's just like people love to talk about themselves. They love to talk about their strengths. And so by then identifying the strengths, then we're able to say, okay, well, here's your strengths that really are not necessarily are part of who you are, part of the essence of who you are. And let's apply them to your current circumstances. So let me give you an example. I always feel like it's easier to talk in examples as opposed to theoretically. So I was working with this one woman. She was a manager, and she was really, really good at what she did in her company in terms of managing. And because she was so organized, because she was a people person, she was able to really advance the company. But then it got too stressful, and she said, okay, I want to spend more time with my grandkids. So she retired, and her grandkids were in school most of the days, and she didn't get to do as much as she wanted. And she kind of was very sad because she said, I used to have this great kind of way for me to kind of express myself through my management skills and through my organizational skills and through my people person skills. And now I don't have it anymore. So then I said, well, what else we have here? And we were able to identify, other elements of her life, how she's such a supportive person, how she's how she's eager to help, how she's she's a giving person, how she wants to get her hands dirty with things, and how she's not afraid to work hard. And we really focused on having her identify alternative qualities in her personality. And we used those and we said, well, how do we apply those to your current circumstances? And we came up with a whole kind of a reinterpretation of the strengths that she can now apply to her life. And we even, spoke about, we were working also on getting her involved in other activities to where to best apply those strengths. And by the end, she really felt that, this was just like a new way of being. And it really made she felt very promising. And she felt that her depression was definitely alleviated by the whole idea of there is a future. I do have a future, and this is my path. And these are my strengths. And now I'm going to use them in this next verse of my life, in this next chapter of my life, to make my life better and to be connected to other people, to make everyone else's life better. And it worked out well.
That's an amazing story. And I do think that it makes this conversation so much more concrete when you share an actual experience like that. So, we definitely have a society with everyone living longer, that there are the sandwich generation, folks like
so
and also others, that are just, caring, whether it's even for neighbors or, people in the community. What are some tips you have for the caregivers on how to help support what you're talking about? Because, it can be a lot, it can be stressful for the caregiver to be, caring. And then on top of that, to be dealing with, some of the challenges that come from people not feeling that they're living their purpose and being in that darker place.
Right. So I just want to say to all the caregivers out there, you are my heroes, because it takes so much emotional effort and physical effort. And, I always think of it when you have babies, you have that caregiver role, but your baby grows up and it reaches milestones, and there's, and as it develops and advances, you see it thrive. And the challenge, one of the many, many challenges of a caregiver is you're seeing the opposite happen, that they're coming apart. There's not this thriving, and there's this kind of decline that you're seeing that you can't help. And it really does, it's very discouraging, as a mother. It's very reaffirming when they're reaching all their milestones. But as a caregiver, when there's decline, it really does impact how you see things, and it really works on the stress. So people always say to me, how do I deal with my parent? How do I deal, especially people that are confused? And I love to talk about people that are confused, because, people that are confused have a purpose too. They have personalities too. And we can't ignore that. Is a person that's confused, do they still have a sense of humor? And does that humor, is their purpose to make you happy? Is the person that, that you're caring for, they have a purpose? And, it's not overt in the same way, but I want caregivers to kind of take a step back and see the purpose of this person being here is for me to be a caregiver. And the purpose for me to be a caregiver, the reason behind it, the reason I was put into this challenge, is to grow, and is to become more sensitive, and is to know that this is how we need to treat people, with care, with kindness, and with care, and with sensitivity. And it's a really hard thing to kind of step back and always have that perspective that has this kind of noble quality of well, this is all part of me growing. But just know that this challenge will make you a better person, will make you a kinder person, and your connections to other people will be stronger for it.
Wow, that's great advice. So talk to me. I'm just so struck by this conversation, because I really do feel like you're talking so next level
Thank you. Wow.
That where people usually focus, people, this really is a conversation. Do you find yourself working with other professionals to start to push this movement, if you will, a little bit, and get some traction around these discussions to get people thinking differently in large collective groups?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I was very excited when the YWCA actually was receptive to it. And I have, so I felt like this was a good platform. I have been speaking to several people. I just started like 3 months ago. So I've conducted several interviews and like webinars on this idea. And it's such a timely idea. The world is really changing. And we have to, with change comes opportunity. I love that. My husband said that to me a long time ago, and I loved it. There's an opportunity here. I mean, and especially with this population, if you look at them, they're so strong. There's so much to offer, and we can't just allow people to, to just go off into a pasture. I mean, it's a nice idea, and when you're ready for it, go for it. But I'm just saying it's not, there should be other options. There should be other ways. And it's very interesting. I did a lot of research, and they have different programs and organizations. There's Experience Corps, there's RSVP, which is Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. There's Encore. There's some organizations that are starting to get the idea of people really taking the next stage, what I like to call elderhood, of people taking that kind of next phase and using that next phase as to still be very impactful. We were put on this earth to achieve, to really, to live out our strengths, live out our gifts, and to impact the world. And just because you're 65 doesn't mean that it's over, and doesn't mean your job is finished. Erickson, he was a psychological theorist, and we learned about him. Everyone learns about him actually in like Psychology 101. Everyone learns about Erickson. He came up with 7 stages of development, and it starts with like being an infant, and then it goes into toddlerhood, adolescence, teens. And the final stage he spoke about was ego integrity versus despair. And he says this is the age, the acceptance of one's one and only life cycle as something that had to be, or later a sense of coherence or wholeness, and reflecting on it and saying, did I accomplish enough? Contemplating if you were able to really live out your life's dream, and developing enough integrity, and did you live it out with integrity? Now, he said that this stage started at age 65. So he says at 65, this is what psychologically you should be going through. But the thing is, Erickson developed this idea in 1950, and life expectancy in 1950 was 67. So he had anticipated that you have 2 years to live out your senior life, because people were still retiring in their mid-60s. So he said, you'll have 2 years to kind of really reflect. But life isn't like that anymore. There's this whole other point of, there's this whole other stage that we need to talk about, that needs to be capitalized on, optimized. It needs to be optimized, because there is so much potential that still can be drawn upon. And it needs to be in the conversation. It really does.
For sure. Absolutely. I feel like this should be such a heavy discussion, and I'm sure, it is on some level, but that there should be much more of a discussion in hospital systems, and also helping professionals that are working, in these different facilities. And because I've spent a lot of time in them over the years with my own parents, helping retrain their thinking, because, what you're talking about, we can retrain how the seniors think and help them find their purpose. But if, as you said, the people around us are still in this old mindset, it really will bring them back to despair.
And that's really what it is. It's like the macro of like retraining everyone. And then what I do in terms of like retraining the seniors to kind of embrace this time. And this purpose doesn't need to be like living a life of purpose, doesn't mean to be that like you need to go back into your industry of choice. it could be something like, you know what, I've always had a passion of working with young kids, and I never got a chance to. So now I'm going to be a substitute teacher. I had an aunt that everyone knew in the community that was a substitute teacher, and people come over to me even to this day being like, I love your aunt, she's so awesome. And she loved it. She was a substitute teacher that she would play certain games with the kids, and she just loved it. And that was her thing. And that was her purpose. And she made so many kids so happy, and they loved her. And also, I can't stress it enough as beyond what the parents offer kids, a kid's self-worth, a kid's confidence comes from knowing that they're loved, and knowing that they have worth, and therefore they are loved. And if there's other older adults really showering their love on kids, these kids are going to be better kids. They're going to be more confident. They're going to have less issues. They're going to be able to reach their gifts easier. And this whole idea of like, this is one of the roles that older people play, that they can help boost up the younger generations, like my aunt did, because she loved working with older kids and younger kids, and that's what she did.
So two more quick questions before we close out. I don't want to take up too much time, but I find this so fascinating, and I am very interested in what you're sharing. So now that we're in this time of COVID and social isolation has kind of brought, in fear of obviously getting germs that could cause, obviously real safety issues, for especially older folks. What's some advice you have for, older Americans that are kind of struggling, with trying to stay safe, and feeling so, isolated right now?
Mm-hmm. I do think this is exceptionally challenging, and I recognize the limitations, but I really want everyone to kind of stay present, stay engaged, and stay relevant, and this Corona's not going to last forever. And the one thing I know is that eventually they'll get their hands in it, whether it's in like 3 months, which would be ideal, but maybe it'll be like a year from now or a year and a half, whatever the case. Let's get ready. Why don't you really explore your passions? Why don't you really identify your strengths and really figure out, when this whole thing is over, I've already set up, I'm going to be going and working in this place, or I'm going to be doing X, Y, and Z. Or, even say like, I have passions in this area, and really allow yourself to kind of start to get comfortable in a certain arena. How do people define their purpose? Your purpose is your strengths, your passions, and your values, and where you want to put your energy. And there is opportunity. It is very limiting, and I just want to encourage people to stay engaged, but just know that it's going to be there when this whole thing is over, and this whole thing will be over.
Yeah, we will get there.
Yes, for sure.
And for anyone who's kind of in that stage where they're getting ready to embark on retirement, but yet they still are very vital, what are some kind of parting words as we close out to share with them of kind of mindset going forward? Right.
So I encourage people to be very aware, like you said, being aware of, okay, so this is one stage of my life that's ending, but there's a whole new stage. And I want people to be able to really identify their passions. Where do their values lie? Where do they want to put their energy? And go for it. Just because, and if you get resistance one way, you go another way. Don't think that just because one door opens, that around the corner, there's not another door waiting for you to really, to be involved and impact how you spread your gifts and make the world a better place.
Oh, that's great advice. And, I would love to get you more engaged. For everyone watching, and, for you to know, we have our Friendship Fridays for our senior population. We have a wonderful grant with the County of Bergen, as well as some supporters from foundations like the Community Chest. And, they've been helping us put together virtual wellness classes for our older adults.
So important.
And it's been very, very popular for anyone who's interested in participating in something like that for your physical health, because we know that also that kind of activity keeps your mental health strong. Also, we'll put the link in the comments here for you to be able to sign up to for those classes. And once a month, we always have a lecture, someone coming and talking to the seniors that are part of our community. These are the exact kind of conversations that we want to be having with them. And we actually have the November and December workshops set up. So we'll put the links to that in the comments here as well.
Looking forward.
Sarah, we hope to, we're excited to have you be part of, more initiatives and more discussions like this, at the YW. We definitely share your thinking that there's a lot more to do.
Yes.
So we want to keep everybody engaged and inspired, just like our purpose of YWTV. It's our purpose with everyone at every age and stage in life. So I'm looking forward to many more conversations with you, and so grateful for you to share your passion and, clearly your commitment. For anyone who wants to speak more to Sarah, we have her contact information here where you can follow her, and her office number, her website, her email. Are you on any social media platforms, Sarah?
Yes, I am on Facebook, and I have a YouTube channel too. I also wanted to say that I accept Medicare. So if you're interested in some kind of counseling or psychotherapy, I accept Medicare. So that's really a nice thing for people that are on fixed incomes, and yeah.
That's wonderful to know, and that's unique for sure. We definitely want people to know that. So with that, Sarah, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. This was a wonderful
conversation,
and really got us all into a very positive mindset. There's no reason, obviously, to wait till your senior years to find your purpose, but it's definitely something that evolves over time. Yet your purpose probably does change, right, as we get older and travel, in our journey. So it's good to stay engaged with that, your introspective self, and stay connected to that so that you can keep living your best life. So with that, everybody, we hope that you join us tomorrow. Tomorrow we are continuing our Share the Mic Now project, and I'm so excited to be talking tomorrow with Vita De Leon, a poet, model, and actress, really looking forward to that conversation as well. I've got the greatest job in the world. I get to talk to all these wonderful people every day, and what a blessing, that is for me. And the other blessing for me is the team that works behind the scenes to make YWTV happen. I just want to give them a shout out today too, because I'm feeling so much gratitude thanks to this positive conversation with Sarah. We could not do this without a whole host of people that are behind the scenes and not in front of the camera. I've got the easy job, but I'm grateful to all of them. And if you have not signed up for the 21-day Racial Justice Challenge, we do encourage you. We will stick a link here. It is available on our website. 21 days of emails to help build more effective social justice habits around leadership, race, power, and privilege. And we encourage everyone to go on that journey with us. And election day. Election day is now. And so please make sure you're getting your ballots in, make your vote and your voice count. And go to vote.org if you have any questions about that process between now and November 3rd. We hope you're following us on all of our social media channels. And this was a great conversation. And if there's someone in your life that you wish had seen it, do not despair. You can share it with them individually. You can share it to your Facebook page. We do encourage you to keep this conversation going. It's an important one. And so grateful that Sarah has started it for us. Everyone have a great day. Be well. Thank you. Thanks so much, Sarah.